Did Princess Kate just outmaneuver Meghan Markle, and why is royal watchers' reaction making headlines? That's the question reverberating across headlines and social media this week, stirring debate, admiration, and a fair share of suspicion. In a dramatic clash of royal presence and strategic timing, two very different worlds collided, one centered in the quiet galleries of East London, the other basking in the red carpet lights of Los Angeles. Both figures made bold public appearances. Both sought to be seen. But only one left the royal faithful stunned. As the Trooping the Colour approaches a monumental event in Britain, marking King Charles's official birthday, the palace expected tradition, spectacle, and unity. What they didn't anticipate was yet another calculated disruption, or so it seems, from the Duchess of Sussex. On the very same weekend, the eyes of the nation were turning to celebrate the monarchy. Meghan Markle popped up in the spotlight across the Atlantic, receiving an award so obscure that even her critics struggled to name it. Was it coincidence? Or was it a well-timed effort to overshadow the crown once again? On the other hand, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, executed what many are now calling a masterstroke. Without any media build-up or grand announcements, she arrived at the V&A East Museum in East London poised, composed, and entirely in her element. There were no social media teasers, no tabloid leaks. It was a quiet move, almost surgical in its precision. And to those paying attention, it wasn't just a royal engagement. It was a deliberate checkmate. But the question remains, who truly won this subtle war of public relations? Was Meghan's attempt to shift focus successful? Or did Kate's quiet strength speak louder? This isn't a one-dimensional story of villain and heroine. It's a high-stakes chess game between two women who understand power, legacy, and media better than most. Royal fans are weighing in from every corner of the world, some hailing Kate as the silent guardian of the monarchy, others defending Meghan as a woman rewriting her own narrative in a post-palace world. This documentary will dive into every detail, pulling apart the facts, the motives, and the fallout. We'll explore the timing, the tactics, and the reactions that have left the public and even palace insiders reeling. From Kate's elegant maneuver at V&A East to Meghan's controversial public appearance in LA, the battle lines may not be visible, but the moves are undeniably real. To understand this royal chess move, let's start with what Kate actually did. It was a quiet Monday morning in East London. No grand convoy, no pre-announced photo op, just a poised and smiling Princess of Wales stepping through the doors of the V&A East storehouse alone. It wasn't a royal gala or a national ceremony. It was a solo, low-key visit. But in the world of the monarchy, where every appearance is deliberate and every absence speaks volumes, this was no ordinary engagement. This was a move, a precise, strategic, almost silent assertion of presence. Catherine's visit on June 10th may have flown under the radar at first, but it didn't take long for the message to land. She wasn't just touring a museum. She was reminding the world, and perhaps one very specific audience across the Atlantic, that her place in the public eye hadn't dimmed. She arrived not with fanfare, but with purpose, and that purpose was legacy. Since 2018, the princess has been a dedicated patron of the Victoria and Albert Museum, and her passion for the arts isn't a front, it's deeply personal. Insiders often speak of her genuine fascination with design, history, and culture. During this visit, she didn't simply walk the halls, she engaged, she listened, she examined storage racks and preservation techniques with the attentiveness of someone who truly cared. Tristram Hunt, the museum director, later praised her as a figure deeply invested in the stories behind the artifacts. And that matters, because when a royal goes beyond ribbon-cutting into real advocacy, the public pays attention. But this wasn't just about cultural stewardship. Catherine's style sent its own message. She re-wore her tailored McQueen white suit, not for the first time, and did so with an almost defiant confidence. It wasn't about fashion, it was about consistency. Even while recovering from illness, even while enduring media scrutiny, she stood tall, elegant, and unshaken. Walking gracefully in heels through industrial corridors, she blended grace with grit, a quiet defiance wrapped in soft tailoring. This event, modest as it may seem, was timed with remarkable precision. Just 4 days before Trooping the Colour, When all eyes would be on the King's birthday parade, Catherine offered a preview of her return to public duties. A whisper of strength before the trumpet of tradition. And in doing so, she reclaimed something that had felt threatened in recent months. Stability. There was no press release days in advance, no orchestrated Instagram campaign, just presence, poised, subtle, yet unmistakably royal. And the impact? It was seismic. In a media cycle so often dominated by drama and division, Catherine's understated appearance was a striking contrast. It wasn't just a royal engagement. It was an image of continuity, a reminder that while noise may come and go, quiet dignity endures. She didn't need to compete, she needed only to show up. But while Kate was back in Britain, Meghan was halfway across the world. So let's shift to what she was up to. While Princess Kate made headlines in London with quiet elegance and purpose, across the ocean in sun-soaked Los Angeles, Meghan Markle was preparing for a very different kind of moment. On the very same day, Catherine stunned the public with her surprise visit to V&A East. Meghan stepped into the spotlight at an award ceremony, smiling, polished, and once again surrounded by controversy. It wasn't just the event itself that caught attention, it was the timing. And in the world of royal PR, timing is everything. The award, given by an organization few had heard of before that day, was described as a celebration of Meghan's humanitarian work. But critics didn't waste time tearing it apart. Some called it another meaningless trophy, a hollow recognition delivered to a woman whose influence, they argued, was more manufactured than earned. The media didn't swarm the event. Mainstream outlets barely covered it. And yet, the echoes of her appearance rang loud across royal fan circles and social platforms. Not because of the award, but because of when it happened. It was impossible to ignore the overlap. Meghan's public appearance directly competed with a weekend dominated by royal tradition. While the UK was gearing up for Trooping the Colour, one of the monarchy's most celebrated spectacles, Meghan stood thousands of miles away, in a ballroom bathed in applause, reclaiming her spotlight. The optics? Undeniably provocative. And, to many royal watchers, undeniably deliberate. Some claimed the clash was orchestrated, a strategic move aimed at drawing media attention away from the monarchy and back to Meghan herself. A whisper campaign swirled, alleging that the Duchess of Sussex had once again chosen chaos over protocol. The narrative gained steam. This was her way of hijacking the royal moment, stealing thunder from the King's birthday celebration and outshining Catherine's graceful reemergence. But others saw it differently. Supporters of Meghan argued that the date may have been set long in advance, without any awareness or concern for what was unfolding in the UK. They pointed to her ongoing work with charitable organizations, insisting this wasn't sabotage, it was consistency. A woman carving out her own brand, her own platform, away from the constraints of palace control. And in that framing, the award, meaningless or not, was symbolic. Not of fame, but of freedom. Still, the controversy couldn't be ignored. Royal. Insiders noted that Meghan's use of titles at the event, subtle or not, blurred the very lines she once demanded to escape. The careful reintroduction of Duchess of Sussex branding raised eyebrows. Not overt, but not accidental either. And in the public court of perception, intent matters more than fact. This wasn't about an award. It was about attention. It was about legacy. And it was about two women on opposite sides of the world making two very different statements at the exact same moment. One, silent and strategic. The other, bold and unapologetic. This timing sparks the core allegation. Meghan allegedly trying to bet on divisive headlines. As the spotlight widened on Meghan's surprise award appearance in Los Angeles, the whispers grew louder. Was this all a coincidence, or was it something more calculated? Royal watchers, journalists, and insiders began asking a question that carried weight beyond one weekend. Did Meghan Markle plan to steal the spotlight from the royal family's most sacred tradition? Because if she did, it wasn't the first time. And it certainly wouldn't be the last. The accusation was sharp. The ceremony Meghan attended didn't just happen to coincide with Trooping the Colour. Critics pointed out that she had a long-standing pattern of aligning her public moves with major royal milestones. The King's coronation, Catherine's illness announcement, and now his birthday celebration. To some, It was an unmistakable pattern. Meghan, they argued, had mastered the art of weaponizing visibility. And this award, obscure or not, served a larger purpose: to insert herself back into the royal narrative just when the firm hoped to move forward without her. But the controversy didn't stop at the timing. What really sent alarm bells ringing across royal circles was something far more symbolic: the re-emergence of the title, Her Royal Highness. Subtle references, hints dropped in speeches, introductions, that danced dangerously close to protocol violations. It was enough to raise eyebrows across the monarchy. Because under the terms of the Megxit agreement, signed in 2020, Meghan and Harry had explicitly agreed not to use their HRH titles in any official capacity. They retained them legally, yes, but they were never to be used publicly again. That was the compromise. That was the rule. Yet, time and again, there were cracks in that boundary. A podcast episode where Meghan referred to herself as the Duchess, without clarification. A gift card sold online by a friend bearing the words HRH Meghan. An event speaker who introduced her using phrasing eerily close to forbidden royal language. Were these mere slip-ups? Or intentional provocations designed to blur the line between independence and entitlement? The backlash was swift. Royal insiders reportedly called it tone-deaf and offensive, suggesting it was a deliberate undermining of the monarchy's clearly negotiated terms. For an institution built on tradition and symbolism, this wasn't just petty, it was dangerous. Protocol matters. Titles matter. And when those symbols are bent or misused, the entire framework begins to tremble. Public reaction mirrored that. Internal unrest. Polls conducted across the UK revealed a striking sentiment. A growing percentage of the British public now believe that Meghan and Harry should be stripped of their royal titles entirely. The numbers were sobering. For a couple who once claimed to seek privacy, their continued use of royal branding, even by implication, felt like hypocrisy to many. It wasn't just about what Meghan said, it was about what she didn't correct. Yet the Sussexes pushed back. A spokesperson quickly dismissed the claims, insisting that Meghan never identified herself as HRH and that no protocol had been broken. They emphasized that any title used was consistent with her legally retained status as the Duchess of Sussex. But to royal watchers, that distinction rang hollow. The damage had already been done. The narrative had already taken root, because this wasn't just about one award or one introduction. It was about trust, about credibility, about whether Meghan was willing to honor the boundaries she once helped draw, or whether she was slowly erasing them to serve a bigger purpose, one that, intentionally or not, keeps her name tethered to the very institution she walked away from. So how did fans and experts react? Who sided with whom? The fallout was immediate and polarizing. As the images from both events circulated online, the public didn't hold back. The clash between Meghan's award show appearance and Kate's unexpected museum visit ignited a firestorm across social media, drawing reactions that were as fierce as they were divided. One side praised Meghan as bold, unfiltered, and unapologetically herself. The other called her manipulative, theatrical, and obsessed with overshadowing the monarchy she once claimed to leave behind. And in the middle, a war of perception no one seemed ready to de-escalate. Supporters of Meghan flooded platforms like Twitter and TikTok with clips of her laughing, speaking from the heart, and breaking from royal rigidity. To them, this was the kind of authenticity the monarchy desperately needed but never embraced. One viral video stitched together footage of Meghan dancing during her pregnancy, the now infamous baby mama dance, with her speech from the LA event, claiming she radiated joy in a way Kate never had. In their eyes, Meghan wasn't stealing the spotlight. She was the spotlight. A woman liberated from royal expectation and doing things on her terms. But the opposing camp fired back with equal force. Commenters accused Meghan of timing her appearance to deliberately draw attention away from the Trooping the Color and Kate's reappearance. Many viewed her presence at the award show as a calculated PR stunt, one that leaned on the gravitas of royal associations while discarding royal responsibility. The criticism wasn't subtle. She wants the title without the duty. One popular Reddit thread declared, garnering thousands of upvotes. Another commenter bluntly put it, "Every time there's a palace moment, she tries to flip the camera. And the debate didn't stop with Meghan. Kate, too, was caught in the crossfire. Some accused her of being robotic, too perfect, too rehearsed. Critics argued that she played into the palace's hands, a figure sculpted by PR teams and tabloid optics. On Reddit, discussions comparing the two women often devolved into partisan tribalism. The Sussex Squad versus the Kate Crusaders. Both sides weaponized their favorite clips, quotes, and theories. Nuance became rare, fairness even rarer. Yet, amid the noise, a quieter but more thoughtful conversation emerged. Voices from the middle royal followers who saw the humanity in both women began asking harder questions. Why must one woman's success be framed as another's failure? Why is public perception so deeply entrenched in loyalty to either side? And more importantly, how much of this tension is driven by the women themselves? And how much is orchestrated by the media machine that thrives on their rivalry? The truth is, public sentiment isn't just divided, it's tribal. The reactions aren't simply about behavior or timing. They're about identity, projection, and the stories people want to believe. Meghan is either a revolutionary or a saboteur. Kate is either a stoic symbol of continuity or a carefully crafted image with no real emotion behind her eyes. There's very little room left for anything in between. But beyond fans, what are royal experts saying? As the dust from the public reaction settled, a more calculated chorus emerged, one made up of royal commentators, constitutional experts, and insiders who've spent decades decoding the silent language of the monarchy. And their message was pointed. Meghan Markle was playing a dangerous game. Not just with public opinion, but with the very rules she once agreed to uphold. Her recent re-emergence, wrapped in subtle hints of royal formality and questionable title usage, didn't just spark gossip, it triggered red flags across Buckingham Palace and beyond. One of the first to speak out was royal biographer Hugo Vickers, a man who's no stranger to the intricacies of royal protocol. He didn't mince words. In a series of televised remarks, he labeled Meghan's latest appearance as self-serving, a calculated attempt to cling to a brand she had officially relinquished. And he wasn't alone. Several insiders echoed the same sentiment. Meghan was teetering on the edge of violating the carefully negotiated terms of the Megxit Agreement, a document forged under intense scrutiny and intended to preserve a fragile peace. That agreement, signed in 2020, was supposed to offer clarity. The Sussexes would step back from their roles. They would keep their Duke and Duchess titles, but they would no longer use his or her Royal Highness in any official capacity. It was a clean break, or at least it was meant to be. But over the past year, and especially now, that boundary has begun to blur. Whether in formal introductions, podcast references, or branding material, the HRH aura has crept back in, leaving experts alarmed and the public confused. And the public has spoken loudly. Recent polls across the UK show a growing consensus. A significant majority now believe that Harry and Meghan should be stripped of their titles entirely. The perception isn't just that they've broken protocol, it's that they've exploited it, used it, traded royal duty for Hollywood glamour, and then had the audacity to demand respect from both worlds. For many Britons, this feels like betrayal, and for others, hypocrisy cloaked in PR spin. Tensions have only deepened since the release of Harry's memoir, Spare, and the couple's bombshell interview with Oprah. The monarchy was accused of institutional neglect. Individual royals were called out without naming names, yet everyone knew who was being pointed at. Those moments tore at the fabric of royal trust. And now, with each new appearance, each subtle title reference, that fabric frays just a little more. In stark contrast stands Catherine, Princess of Wales. Just recently re-emerging from a deeply personal health battle, she made no spectacle of her return. No interviews, no emotional monologues, just action. Her quiet visit to the V&A East, done without warning or fanfare, wasn't just seen as a royal engagement, it was interpreted as a gesture of loyalty, a reaffirmation of duty. While Meghan was in Los Angeles accepting an award, Kate was in East, London, carrying the monarchy's legacy forward silently, but unmistakably. Analysts have pointed out that this juxtaposition is not accidental. Kate's return wasn't reactive, it was deliberate. A carefully measured move by a woman who understands the weight of her role. While Meghan generates headlines, Kate generates continuity. And in the royal game of chess, sometimes it's the silent piece that makes the loudest move. Let's zoom out. Does this story say more about a deeper royal rivalry? The tension between Catherine and Meghan didn't begin this weekend. It didn't start with an award in Los Angeles or a quiet museum visit in East London. No, this story has deeper roots twisted and tangled in years of whispers, wounds, and headlines that have divided a nation. To understand what's happening now, you must look back to the infamous bridesmaid dress fitting, to the stories of tears. Was it Meghan who cried, or was it Kate? To the countless reports of icy glances, silent rooms, and staff caught in the crossfire between two women walking very different royal paths. From the beginning, Meghan arrived with fire, an American actress with causes, ambition, and a voice the palace wasn't ready to contain. She challenged the institution. She asked why things were done a certain way. She wanted control over her story, her image, her mission. But for an institution that runs on tradition and silence, that defiance wasn't refreshing, it was threatening. Rumors spread of her clashing with palace aides, of her demanding meetings that left staff in tears. Whether exaggerated or not, the narrative stuck. Meghan was the disruptor. Kate, by contrast, was the anchor, the elegant, patient figure who never spoke out of turn. She followed the royal script, word by word, never straying far from duty. While Meghan built business ventures and gave searing interviews, Kate stayed in the background, steadily raising 3 children, attending public engagements, and becoming the monarchy's quiet, stabilizing force. To some, she was cold. To others, composed. But to the firm, she was safe. And therein lies the true fault line. This was never just about personality. It was about branding. Meghan and Harry became the symbols of modern rebellion, casting themselves as truth-tellers, challenging a broken system. Catherine and William stood for continuity, a royal family unchanged, holding on to dignity through storm after storm. And the public picked sides. Sussex versus Wales. Emotion versus elegance. Candid chaos versus curated calm. So when Catherine stepped into the V&A East this week, was it a personal moment? Or was it a response to the narrative Meghan had just reignited in California? And was Meghan's award timing a calculated disruption, or an unfortunate coincidence swallowed by a larger royal spectacle? These questions don't have simple answers because the truth is buried beneath layers of public perception and press manipulation. What's clear is this: the media thrives on the tension. They sell the story not as a tale of 2 women navigating impossible roles, but as a battle. A duel. The Duchess War. Each gesture is analyzed, each smile dissected, each silence turned into strategy. It's a game with no winner, only endless rounds of speculation and side-taking. But behind the headlines, the core question remains untouched. What happens when 2 women are forced into roles not of their own making, then judged for how well they play them? Finally, what lessons can both sides take from this week's royal PR chess match? So what does this all mean beyond the headlines, beyond the fan wars, beyond the surface-level spectacle? One thing is undeniable: timing matters. In the world of royalty, where silence often screams louder than speeches, every move is scrutinized, every absence is noted, and every appearance is a message. And in this latest chapter of an ongoing feud, it's Princess Kate's quiet return that landed with precision. Her V&A visit wasn't just a royal outing, it was a strategic assertion of grace, continuity, and unshaken purpose. A stark contrast to Meghan's simultaneous spotlight moment in Los Angeles, which, whether intentional or not, now faces a wall of skepticism. And at the core of this scrutiny lies a deeper fault line: titles and protocol. The conversation has shifted beyond Meghan's wardrobe or words. It's about how and when she uses the very symbols she claimed to reject. The Duchess of Sussex retains her title legally, yes, but the public understanding, and more importantly, the spirit of the Megxit agreement, demanded that she refrain from invoking royal status in her endeavors. Yet, with whispers of HRH introductions and subtle branding nudges, the debate reignites with fresh urgency. Is she holding on to the remnants of power she once walked away from? Or has she crossed the invisible line drawn by duty and dignity? Meanwhile, public opinion continues to fracture. For every voice that praises Meghan's authenticity and bravery, another clings fiercely to Kate's composure and tradition. The divide is no longer just about who said what or who wore what, it's about values, about what the monarchy represents, and who the people want it to become. Stability versus spontaneity. Structure versus freedom. Loyalty versus reinvention. The contrast is as emotionally charged as it is strategic, and the world is watching. Trooping the color on June 14th will serve as the next battleground, not in words, but in optics. Will Kate's presence stir national pride? Will Meghan attempt another counterplay? Will the media stoke the fire or let it simmer in the background? Then there's the ever-looming question. Will Buckingham Palace issue any formal statement on the HRH matter if the public outrage grows louder? Add to that Meghan and Harry's upcoming projects, rumored docuseries pitches, new collaborations, and continued attempts to shape their identity post-royal exit. Every move, every headline, every partnership will now be filtered through this lens. Are they honoring their commitment to step back, or redefining it on their terms? And that's where you come in. What do you think? Is Meghan playing politics, or is this narrative being stretched too far? Is Kate the quiet strategist, or simply fulfilling her role without needing to play games? The answers aren't simple, but they are important. In the next episode, we'll break down and rank the 5 most shocking Meghan versus Kate moments that shook the palace and the press. From tears behind closed doors to explosive interviews, we'll track the evolution of a royal rivalry that refuses to fade. In this royal drama, the real power could lie less in headlines and more in timing and image. That's a wrap. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And we will see you in the next one.